Hello and welcome to the Acorn Impact Podcast. For our listeners, Acorn is a full-service national adjusting firm handling field, desk, and specialty services. This is our 15th year of providing impactful claim services throughout the United States. Visit us at www.acornclaims.com for more information. And be sure to follow us on social media. With this being the first episode, which is special, we wanted to focus our discussion on specialty services operations. I'm Taylor Young, the company engineer, and your host of the Acorn Impact Podcast. Today, I'm joined by JJ Seidel, VP of Operations, and Rich Dillon, Director of Specialty Services here at Acorn. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I know this is our first episode, so we're bound to have some kinks and bugs along the way, but I appreciate you guys braving it with me, and we'll definitely learn a few things along our way, but we're excited to get this going. Okay, so Rich, I know that you're a little bit newer than JJ here, right?
Yeah, I've been here since October.
So since October, and then JJ, how long have you been with us?
I've been here since the end of July 31st. So
okay.
right around 6 months today, actually.
Perfect. But you guys actually, I mean, you've both been in the business for quite a while, right?
Yeah, I've been in about insurance space for about 21 years, 22 years, something like that.
15 for me.
Yeah.
Great. So you guys have experienced a lot together.
I've seen a few things in the claims.
Excellent. Well, so Rich, you're a licensed adjuster in 32 states, and you also hold a couple of certificates from the IICRC. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I am certified in WRT, so water restoration technician, and also ASD, which is applied structural drying. And I also am certified in trauma crime scene cleanup.
So, Rich, nobody, being that I've been in the business around 21 years, I did not actually get right into insurance. I started off in banking a little bit and then kind of transferred into insurance. How did you get into the insurance space and let alone the specialty side? Because I've only dabbled in the specialty for a little bit over a year. I know that business, but for the most part, I was on the claim operations side. So how did you kind of go from an adjuster to the specialty side?
Well, as a young kid, I was my goal was either to be a baseball player or be in insurance. So my curveball wasn't working for me, so here I am.
You too?
So no, I got into it. I also was in a banking background. Got into insurance. One of the things that really struck me was water mitigation. For some reason, it just really, I did a training on it and just really appealed to me. Probably because I have a real dry sense of humor. But something about it just kind of clicked. And I've never really been a sciencey kind of person, but psychrometrics and all that stuff, it just really resonated with me. So when I became an adjuster, I was a field adjuster, and I started specializing kind of in the water. Back then, the average water mitigation invoice that we saw was about $3,500. Today, it's over $10,000. So a lot has changed, and there's a lot of need for a specialty service like we provide, just because with all the standards that have come out. The standards are great because it gives everybody something to work from. Just to give an example, kind of a side story here, but when I was an adjuster, the adjuster across the hall from me, he'd been an adjuster for like 35 years and was close to retirement. And one day he told me how he adjusts water invoices. And that's just, he takes the contractor's amount and subtracts 20% and says, this is what I'm going to pay you.
That's an easy one. That's one way of looking at it.
And, in case you're listening, Larry, I'm not going to throw in your bus by mentioning your name, Larry. So,
don't pick on Larry.
But the reason for that is, though, there's just so much that an adjuster has to do. And when I became an adjuster, I was shocked at how you've got so many different claim types that you're looking at. You have to focus on coverage and the rebuild and contents valuation sometimes. You have to know all of the specialty services that we do. You know, something about fire, something about water, and then there's the wind and hail. All these different things. There's just so much that an adjuster needs to know. And with the standards are there, but the standards are also a lot to learn. The S500 water mitigation, water restoration standards, it's 180 pages, just that.
Right.
Wow.
So there's just a lot of information for an adjuster to have to learn. So that's where we come in. We're able to kind of take that burden off them. We can handle the emergency mitigation portion for them, whether it be water or fire, smoke, contents pack out, mold, or a trauma crime scene, biohazard cleanup. We can take that burden from them and be able to do it, and also get the whole claim done faster because we're taking a piece of that from them.
So you're acting as a subject matter expert for the carrier. Let them handle the indemnity piece while you focus on the water or the fire, whatever it may be on the back end, so they don't have to worry about that.
Right. We have more time to
indemnity and coverage.
Right. We just have more time to get trained and learn those standards, 180 pages of the standards, and then doing that every day, the same thing all day, every day. We do become, more or less the experts on that.
Well, and I mean that's really important, especially for carriers, right? I mean, because they probably don't have a lot of adjusters that focus on that specific type of loss working as a staff adjuster, do they?
Well, it's really hard to specialize an adjuster just because there's so much involved with it. And adjusters are more, if they are separated, it's more separated by geography than it is expertise. So we're able to do that. We're able to do claims throughout the country, so that the geography part isn't an issue either.
So just to kind of piggyback over that, so as far as the certifications, you said you have several certifications. You're not adjusting the claim. You're just applying the standards to
Correct.
Based on that type of loss, what type of standards that apply to that claim, right? So based on the estimate. So you'll just
Exactly.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah.
When I think of adjusting or I think of a claim, I think of it as one, but this is kind of a second piece or two parts to one claim in a sense.
That's true.
Right. So what we do is we look at not just the contractor's invoice, but we look at the entirety of the claim. So we're looking at the category, class, based on the source and cause of loss. We're looking at their photos. We're looking at their dry logs. We're looking at the whole picture, and then we collaborate with the contractor. We want to have that discussion with them because even though we have 180 pages of standards for water, there's a lot of it's open to interpretation, and there's also a lot of exceptions to the rules and the standards. So that's why it's really important that we have that conversation with the contractor so that we're able to be fair and accurate with our review, because we don't know those exceptions unless the contractor tells us what they are. So that's the big thing, and if it sounds a little time consuming, it kind of is, which is again why we can take that burden off the adjuster and we can handle that part of it. But you're right, JJ. We basically are just comparing the work that was done to the standards, and then we give that back to the adjuster to settle the claim. So
it sounds to me the ultimate result is to get an agreement with the contractor or build that rapport, or kind of a mix of both.
Well, no, ideally we collaborate with the contractor to get an agreement at the end that is fair and accurate for all parties involved.
Based on the scope and what was presented, when that would entail class, category, things like that, right?
Correct.
So I'm assuming then it's up to the adjuster or the carrier, whoever it may be, that sends over the assignment, that they get you the photos, the dry logs, all documentation that pertains to the claim. You don't need the adjuster's report because you're not really focused on that, right?
Right. And oftentimes we don't get all the documentation from the adjuster, so we reach out to the contractor. We'll get those documents from the contractor. And also it enables us to kind of start establishing that rapport with the contractor as we're gathering those documents.
So really, we're not even in the business of specialty services. It's building those relationships, it sounds like.
100%. That's what it's all about. It's really about, and if you look at it from the contractor's perspective, and I always tell our people to put yourself in the contractor's shoes.
Sure.
Why would you want to trust somebody who's doing this?
Yeah.
Just because the appearance is that we're just trying to cut their bill to look good to the carrier. And I
Sure.
totally get that. I can see why they think that. But so that's why really establishing that rapport and being transparent about what we do and why we're doing it is really
Right.
critical to the process.
Well, and I mean, with standards, do a lot of the contractors typically adhere to those? Like, are they certified as well with the IICRC, or can they be certified?
Most are, and I think to answer your question, most of the time they do adhere to the standards. But again, the way I look at it is, if you take your car, if your car needs repair, say your car's making a noise,
Yeah.
you bring it to a shop, and the mechanic comes back 2 hours later and says, "Okay, your car's fixed. It'll be $2,500." You want to know what that $2,500 is for, right?
Right.
You're not just to say, "Okay, thanks," and
Yeah, sure. Here
"Here's
you
my
go.
keys, here's your money." So that's really what it is. Is we're taking that. We're basically letting the carrier know that yes, this is what you're paying for, and it's right. You're paying for the right amount. It's not because again, it'd be like for us to write that check. It's like, is this the right amount? Am I overpaying by
You don't just
Yeah.
make it rain.
$500, $1,000? So
Whatever the cost.
I have a brother who's actually in the automotive industry, and whenever I have a car repair, I run it past him, the estimate.
Sure.
And so
That's handy.
as I was thinking about it, that's kind of, he does our role for me. It's the same role that we provide for the adjuster for the carrier.
So in a sense, it's a two-way street. You want to build that relationship with the contractor, but you also want to be transparent, and you also want them to provide you what you need. And you both need to be back and forth based on what the loss dictates or entails, and then provide that information back to the carrier. So, yeah, you want to work with them. You would love to take everybody's word for it, but we want to make sure it applies to that claim and they've used the right equipment. And ultimately, you want to make sure that the place has been dry, right? If it's that type of loss, if the right things have been adhered to, such as if it's a fire or any type of claim that requires certain services that you wouldn't just normally. You need something special to handle that. So, it's good.
Sure. You can think about it this way too. If you were to get a medical bill, say you had surgery, you get a medical bill. If you've ever seen one of those itemized medical bills, trying to make heads or tails out of what it is, and did I really have this done? Did they really give me this? Whatever it was. And now imagine doing that, getting that bill for somebody else who you weren't even involved with, and now them saying, "Is this medical bill correct?" So that's kind of what it is. Again, we're just verifying that what the carrier is paying, and it's for the protection of everybody involved. It's for the protection of the contractor. It's for the protection of the carrier. And it's for the protection of all of us who pay premiums. Just making sure that the carrier knows what they're paying for and that they're paying for the right thing.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's kind of a common misconception is with premiums. People don't understand that, even though they don't have a claim, their premiums can still increase if losses and loss costs are increasing. So, we're not even just looking out for those that file the claim, but everybody that may have insurance with that particular
and it's not
company.
necessarily a way to control the cost, but it's a way to validate what the cost is, right? And that's what the carrier is paying to validate. Hey, this work was done. This is reasonable, and here's why we're willing to pay. So what? Let me ask you, even though we all work for Acorn, on the specialty side, what makes Acorn different than, say, another competitor in this space as far as the specialty services? I
would say our people. I think we have a group of really good personalities, and that's one of the things I'm trying to get them to, telling them that it's okay to use your personality. It's okay to let the contractor know who you are and make that connection with them. This doesn't have to be a real formal business transaction, because that's not really what it is. We're working together to again to confirm to the carrier that this is what's fair and accurate.
I like that.
Well, the accuracy thing especially has always been something important to Acorn. I know, for 15 years, that's kind of what we've tried to pride ourselves on. And, part of that being not even just on the specialty services side, but every service, we have. And but it's especially important, I feel like, on the specialty side, just because of how much more can be involved as well. How much pushback do we have from some of the contractors we deal with? Are most of them pretty agreeable?
It really varies. I think the ones that aren't real cooperative are the ones who don't understand. They don't understand that, like I mentioned earlier, that they're kind of afraid of our process of
Sure.
what we're doing. So that's what I always tell my staff, is that when you hear no, that's just an opportunity for you to explain to them, what they're really saying isn't no, it's I need more information. Explain more to me. So that's really what it's about. So it's just being transparent with them, getting those lines of communication open. Most contractors want to do the right thing, and contractors, again, putting yourself in their shoes, they've been burned a lot too by adjusters who maybe cut 20% off their bill when they feel like their bill is accurate. That's with no explanation. You feel kind of burned by that. So I get that part of it. That's why we really want to be, like I said, really open and transparent. And we want the contractor to go with us through the process, through the journey, to get to the right result.
Yeah, because ultimately too, if it's drug out even more, that ends up just hurting the policyholder more as well.
Yeah. When I was adjusting claims early on, 22 years ago, it would have been nice if we had this service. It wasn't really a niche or it wasn't even part of the service. I don't even think specialty services even existed back then. It was, we had to look at the bill. Most of the times you went out, I was the field adjuster, went out to a loss, I'd count the fans, look at it, and then come back and make sure it was in line. Did it match up with the dry logs? But now I think this service it's evolved, and to have that burden taken off the examiner's plate and put into an expert's hands, it's almost a necessity now, and it just relieves the examiner of a burden, something, a weight off their chest. They have to worry about that piece. So, and again, what you just said, it speeds up the claim. One thing I did want to ask there, Rich, as far as the agreements with the contractors, is there a percentage or a number that you say that you typically see that they agree with you or not, or is it 50%, 100%, 80%, or what's usually the number?
Yeah, it's close to 80%, and most of that 20% that don't agree with us are the ones who just, again, won't go to that point with us to where they'll collaborate with us, to where we just can't get them to even be open enough for us to show them what it is that we're trying to do. And again, I understand that from their perspective, but that number could be a lot higher if we're able to get them to at least let us show you what it is that we're doing, so you understand the process.
So in those situations, what do you do when they don't want to agree? You just do what you think's based on the documentation you have. You do what you think's right, and then submit it back to the carrier. Or at that point, what's the process, I guess?
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll get as much information as the contractor is willing to give us, because again, we want it to be as fair and accurate as we can possibly get. So if they give us a little bit of information, we'll use that little bit of information. If they just refuse to speak to us altogether, we'll use the information that we have based on the category class, the whatever documentation they give us, and we'll determine what it's likely is accurate, and then we submit that to the carrier as a recommendation, and then the adjuster can use that as part of the negotiation process to settle the claim.
Okay. So you put it back on the adjuster to work with that contractor if they're unwilling to work with our reviewer or our expert.
Yeah, because at that point they're really, the adjuster doesn't have the recourse of saying, "Here, this is a recommendation," and pass it on to somebody else. They, at that point, they pretty much just have to settle it best they can. But this gives them, even if it's an adjuster who's not familiar with whatever type of claim it is, it gives them a good basis of not only where they should be, looking at as far as targeting for what it should be, but also the reasons why. We will give them a report that's very detailed as far as what we don't think should be allowed, what should be changed, and why. So they'll have that, to use in that conversation with the contractor.
Okay, so Obviously, with our podcast, it's the Acorn Impact podcast, and Impact was chosen for a specific reason. It's actually an acronym. Surprise, insurance world. Um,
Another one,
we
right?
do love our acronyms, but our core value is impact, and that stands for integrity, motivation, passion, accountability, collaboration, and transformation. We're definitely set to have a huge year here in 2024 with Acorn. We're excited. We've been bringing on some very talented folks that have been really just a pleasure to work with and meet. And as we continue on this journey, I'm really excited to see what we can do. But Rich, JJ, with our core values that we've established here, how does specialty services fit into some of that?
I think the first thing, I mean, as far as impact, and you think of the word integrity, what we're doing with the contractors, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear the word integrity is being honest, trustworthy, right? And having core values or principles. So I think the fact that we're honest and open and being transparent with that contractor, I think that says a lot for what we do. We want to have a fair and accurate outcome. So I think that's why the impact piece fits very well with specialty and with claims in a sense. You want to obviously every claim you need to be honest and truthful. We want to pay a fair value. So I think that's where this really fits with this pod and with what we're trying to get across to everybody.
Yeah. Well, and Rich, with you and JJ, you both were able to bring about an event for our specialty team, which was really special. I know that a lot of them said they had a great time. They were able to really get out of their shell, so to speak,
Yep.
And get to mingle in person as well, because we do have some remote workers, as a lot of people do. And obviously, I mean, you two, for example, are on opposite ends of the country just about. And so we've been able to work through that. But I know that that's something you guys have talked about, like with the motivation, is empowering our team, giving them the tools they need. Rich, what do you have on board for that exactly? How are we empowering and motivating our team on the specialty side?
I think a big part of it is just to give them the knowledge that they need to be able to make the decisions themselves. That's really what we want them to do, is because they have that relationship with the contractor, and I really want them to be able to, and accountability is another word that from that acronym too. That's a real big part of this. Not just accountability on the contractor's part, but also on our part. We're accountable to the contractor. We're accountable to the carrier, and by proxy, I guess we're accountable to all the policyholders as well. To do a good job and to make sure that things are what they should be. So really, it's about giving them the tools and the knowledge that they need to be able to make those decisions to get that good outcome and keep that relationship with the contractor.
The other part of that too is the collaboration, right? Not only are we collaborating with our team's collaborating with the contractor, and in a sense for the policyholder with the examiner. So it's kind of a whole collaboration between three parties.
It's the total package.
Yeah, and I think that's what it kind of fits our impact pretty nicely. So our acronyms, and like you said, another acronym for the insurance world. Like we need another acronym.
We do though. I think we're trying to break a world record or something. So with transformation, to kind of wrap up impact, where do we see specialty services specifically going, or what are we going to do to change it, even on that regard?
Well, I think this is, we have several clients, but I think this is only the beginning. I think with this, I don't know if I'd call it somewhat of a niche market, but it requires skill set that most people don't have in certification. So I think this can just grow into something almost as it goes hand in hand when the claim comes in. So if it's a water loss or fire, you almost need it to go to that department just to have that validation or that sense of, hey, is there some integrity behind this? Does this estimate hold up? Just to verify that it's in line with what the scope of work is. So I think there's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of growth that we'll see here, and I know we've Acorn itself has been doing this for quite a while, but with Rich and the team that they have, and we're continuing to build. I think it's just the beginning, and I think we have a long way to go, and there's a runway for us to keep trucking along. But I think it's a great start.
I also think it's a service that fits really any carrier of any size, any specialty. It can be it's a carrier that only does commercial. We have a solution. If it's a carrier that only does large losses, we have a solution. Whatever it might be, whatever specialty niche they have, whatever size they are, it's a service that can benefit them.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, guys, I really appreciate it. I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for today.
Thank you for having us, Taylor. I appreciate it, and it's been
Absolutely.
a pleasure. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.